The chaos started in the middle of a sunny airport terminal where two sisters, Madison and Chloe, were arguing so loudly that travelers turned their heads from every direction. They weren't criminals or smugglers. They were just furious over shampoo bottles. Yes, shampoo. The TSA agent calmly explained the 3-ounce rule, but that only fueled their rage. Madison slammed her designer bag onto the counter, shouting that she spent $200 on her luxury hair treatment, and there was no way she'd throw it away. Chloe backed her up, waving her perfume bottles in the air like trophies. Cameras came out. Passengers started recording. The situation spiraled fast. Security tried to de-escalate, but the Karen sisters, known for their over-the-top entitlement, refused to listen. They demanded to see the airport manager, claiming they knew their rights. One of them even tried to storm past security, insisting that airport rules don't apply to paying customers. That was the final mistake. Within minutes, a supervisor and 2 security officers surrounded them. They were escorted to a side inspection area as the crowd whispered and laughed. The sisters thought they could win the argument. Instead, they lost everything in their bags: every perfume, lotion, and bottle of beauty product, over 3 ounces, confiscated and trashed right before their eyes. Madison's jaw dropped as her expensive skincare hit the bin. Chloe nearly screamed when her $400 perfume shattered. Their outrage turned into silent disbelief. Cameras kept rolling. The sisters' arrogance had finally caught up to them. They came for luxury and left humiliated. And as they walked toward their gate empty, they didn't just lose their products, they lost their pride, their dignity, and their calm in front of the entire airport. The morning sun gleamed through the enormous glass windows of Los Angeles International Airport, spilling light across polished floors and bustling travelers. People moved like a calm river through the security lines. Families wrangling children, business travelers tapping on phones, and tourists clutching passports with excitement. But amid all the ordinary travelers, 2 women stood out instantly: Madison and Chloe Harper, sisters who could make any place feel like their personal stage. Both were dressed as if they were attending a luxury photo shoot rather than catching a domestic flight. Madison, the older one by 2 years, wore a tailored cream blazer over a satin blouse, designer jeans, and heels far too high for airport comfort. Her platinum hair was perfectly curled, her makeup flawless, her lips a sharp pink line of confidence. Chloe, the younger sister, mirrored her in style-tight white pants, a pastel scarf, and oversized sunglasses that she refused to remove even indoors. The 2 were inseparable, dramatic, and endlessly confident. Together, they carried an aura of entitlement that even the TSA scanners couldn't filter out. Their morning had started smoothly: valet parking, a priority check-in, and even a brief stop at a luxury coffee stand inside the terminal. Everything was going exactly as planned until they arrived at the security checkpoint. There, the first crack in their perfect day appeared. "Next," called out the TSA officer, a middle-aged man named Officer Grant. He had seen every kind of travel, tired, impatient, but few as commanding as these 2. Madison stepped forward first, placing her designer tote on the conveyor belt. It was covered in gold hardware and stuffed to the brim with what looked like a small salon. Lotions, sprays, and bottles of luxury products peeked out from the top. Grant motioned toward the tray. "Ma'am, please remove your liquids and place them in a separate bin." Madison gave him a polite but dismissive smile. "Oh, don't worry. It's fine. They're all expensive brands, totally safe." Grant kept his professional tone. "I'm sure they are, but they still need to follow the 3.4-ounce rule for liquids. Anything larger will have to stay behind." Chloe, standing just behind her sister, frowned. "Wait, what do you mean stay behind? You're not taking our things, are you?" "It's not a matter of taking them, ma'am," Grant explained. "It's federal policy. Liquids over the size limit aren't allowed through security." Madison's eyebrows shot up. "Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. I've flown with this same shampoo a dozen times. No one's ever said a word." Grant had heard that line countless times. He glanced into the open bag, spotting a tall golden bottle clearly labeled 8.5 ounces. "This one will have to be discarded," he said gently, picking it up. That was when the storm began. Madison gasped as though he had just announced the destruction of a priceless artifact. "You can't just throw that away. That bottle costs $200, she exclaimed, loud enough for nearby travelers to turn and watch. Chloe rushed to her defense, stepping closer to the table. "Sir, this is premium hair care. Do you even know how much effort it takes to find this brand? It's from France." Grant maintained a calm smile. "I understand, ma'am, but airport rules don't change for brand names." Madison's face reddened. "This is absurd. I'm not throwing away my things because of some silly rule about ounces." A few passengers behind them started sighing, exchanging glances. One whispered to another, "Here we go again." Someone else quietly started recording on their phone. The crowd sensed a meltdown in the making. Grant tried to defuse it. "You're welcome to check the items with your luggage if you'd like to keep them, but they can't come through carry-on." "I'm not waiting at baggage claim like some tourist," Madison barked. "We're flying first class, and I expect to be treated accordingly," Chloe added. "Exactly. We're not criminals, we just have expensive taste." Maybe you should focus on real threats instead of hair products. Grant's patience thinned. Ma'am, I'm just following regulations. Please step aside so we can process other passengers. But the Harper sisters weren't the type to step aside. Madison's pride was louder than reason. She grabbed the golden shampoo bottle back from the table, clutching it to her chest like a rescued treasure. No one is taking this from me. You hear me? Ma'am, Grant said sharply. You need to put that back now. Chloe's tone turned snide. What are you going to arrest us for moisturizing? That was when a supervisor appeared, a tall woman with a calm yet firm expression. Her nameplate read S. Morales. She walked up slowly, surveying the situation with the kind of quiet authority that made everyone around fall silent. Is there a problem here? Morales asked. Grant nodded toward the sisters. They're refusing to comply with the liquid restrictions. Morales looked directly at Madison. Ma'am, you can either surrender the items, check them, or exit the security area. But this discussion cannot continue here. Madison placed one manicured hand on her hip. Oh, I'll continue it if I want to. Do you even know who we are? We have a following. And this, she waved toward the gathering crowd, is going online. You're going to look terrible when people see how you treat paying customers. Morales didn't blink. You're free to record, ma'am. The rule still stands. By now, nearly 20 travelers were watching. Some shook their heads. A few filmed quietly from their phones, capturing every second of the growing spectacle. Chloe stepped forward, her voice trembling between anger and panic. You're stealing from us. That's theft. No, ma'am, Morales said calmly. That's security protocol. Madison huffed, crossing her arms. Fine. You want my things. Take them. But I'll make sure everyone knows how ridiculous this airport is. She slammed the shampoo, perfume, and lotion bottles into the bin so hard that one cap popped open, spilling cream across the tray. Grant sighed softly, trying not to show frustration. He signaled another officer to bring a fresh bin. Chloe muttered under her breath. This is unbelievable. We spend money to fly comfortably and get treated like this. The confiscation took nearly 10 minutes. Every bottle above 3.4 ounces perfumes, creams, serums was carefully removed. Each one felt like a small humiliation for the sisters. Madison's face burned red as a TSA agent placed her luxury items into a disposal bag. Chloe's eyes glistened, but whether from anger or embarrassment, no one could tell. When it was over, Morales gestured toward the scanner. You're clear to proceed. Madison grabbed her now half-empty bag and stormed forward. Chloe followed, muttering complaints about power-hungry officers and stupid rules. The line behind them finally began to move again. As the sisters walked away, a ripple of murmurs followed them. Someone whispered, all that over shampoo. Another laughed quietly, classic Karen moment. Madison's ears burned as she heard the whispers. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. She held her chin high, but inside her pride was cracking. Outside the security area, sunlight bathed the terminal in warmth. Travelers hurried past, their lives moving on as if nothing had happened. But for Madison and Chloe, the shine of the day had dimmed. They had walked into the airport feeling untouchable, stylish, important, unstoppable. Now, with their luxury products gone and dozens of eyes still on them, they realized something they'd never admit aloud. Sometimes, the world doesn't care how special you think you are. And this was only the beginning of their very public downfall. The morning still glowed bright across the terminal. But for Madison and Chloe Harper, the sunlight now felt like a spotlight exposing their humiliation. Their heels clacked sharply against the tiled floor as they stormed away from the security checkpoint, trying to ignore the murmurs and curious glances that followed them. Madison's jaw was tight, her eyes burning with fury. Chloe, usually the softer one, looked on the verge of tears, but she hid it behind her oversized sunglasses. I can't believe this, Madison hissed, clutching her nearly empty tote bag. They threw away everything, my whole skincare routine gone because some board officer wanted to feel powerful. Chloe sniffed. And did you see how people were recording us? We looked like criminals. I swear I'm suing this airport. They can't treat us like that. Madison nodded sharply, her anger only growing with every word. They'll regret this. I'll call their supervisor, the airline, maybe even a lawyer. They can't just take someone's property and humiliate them in public. The sisters found an empty bench near the gate and sat down. Madison immediately pulled out her phone, scrolling through her contacts. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped rapidly against the screen as she muttered, I'm calling the airline manager. But before she could dial, a calm voice interrupted. Miss Harper, excuse me. They looked up. A uniformed airport security officer stood before them, a serious expression on his face. He was younger than the TSA agent's late 20s, tall, composed, with a badge that read Officer Riley. What now? Madison snapped. Are you here to confiscate my phone too? Riley didn't flinch. Ma'am, I need to ask you both to come with me for a quick follow-up regarding the incident at the checkpoint. Chloe's mouth fell open. Are you serious? We already did what they asked. We gave them everything. I understand, Riley said evenly. But due to the disturbance, we need to complete a brief report. It won't take long. Madison scoffed. Disturbance. The only disturbance was your staff acting like dictators over hair products. Ma'am, Riley said in a tone that was polite but firm. This is not optional. A few passengers nearby were pretending not to watch but clearly listening. Chloe's cheeks flushed. Madison stood, flipping her hair back defiantly. Fine, but this is harassment. Pure harassment. They followed Riley down a side hallway past the bustling gates. The air grew quieter, the sound of chatter replaced by the hum of vents and the echo of their footsteps. Madison's confidence began to waver as she realized where they were going. A small, windowless inspection office near the security zone. A blue sign read, Security Holding and Report Area, Authorized Personnel Only. Inside. The room was simple white walls, a metal table and 2 chairs. Another officer sat at a computer typing quietly. Riley gestured for them to sit. This will only take a few minutes, he said. Chloe crossed her legs nervously. Madison didn't sit. She stood with her arms folded. We didn't do anything wrong, she said sharply. We were just asking questions. Riley nodded. You raised your voice, interfered with the screening process, and attempted to remove a confiscated item from a security tray. That's a violation. Madison froze. Excuse me, violation. I didn't violate anything. I was protecting my belongings. That's not how it works, ma'am, Riley replied patiently. The moment you tried to take that bottle back, it became a security concern. Chloe let out a shaky laugh. A shampoo bottle is a security concern now, seriously. Riley didn't answer her sarcasm. He pulled a form from a clipboard and placed it on the table. I just need to confirm your names and collect your flight information. Reluctantly, the sisters complied, giving their details with cold stares. Madison muttered under her breath, unbelievable. Treated like criminals for hair care. When Riley finished, he glanced at them. Look, I understand you're upset, but these rules exist for a reason. We see thousands of people every day. If everyone argued, nothing would move. Madison shot back. Then maybe your staff should learn how to treat people with respect. Respect goes both ways, ma'am, he said calmly. That line hit Madison harder than she expected. For a moment, her expression faltered, but she quickly masked it with indignation. Are we done here? She demanded. Riley nodded. Almost, but before you go, I need to inform you that your items can't be recovered once disposed of. They're destroyed for safety reasons. Chloe's eyes widened. Destroyed? As in, gone? Yes, ma'am. They've already been placed in the disposal container. Madison's lips trembled in disbelief. You mean my $400 serum? My imported perfume? My custom conditioner? All of it is just gone. Riley nodded once. I'm afraid so. The silence that followed was heavy. Madison looked down at her bag, half empty, disorganized, stripped of its usual glamour. Chloe stared at the floor, her anger draining into quiet defeat. Finally, Madison spoke, her voice softer but still edged with bitterness. Do you people even understand what that stuff costs? How much I work for it? Riley sighed gently. Ma'am, I understand it's frustrating, but I also know money doesn't change the rules. Everyone goes through the same process, no exceptions. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was the truth. After a few final signatures, Riley opened the door for them. You're free to go, and you'll still make your flight if you head to the gate now. Chloe stood first, gripping her purse tightly. Madison followed slowly, her pride still aching. As they stepped back into the main terminal, the contrast was striking. The bright sunlight, the chatter of travelers, the smell of coffee. Everything felt too normal after what they'd just endured. The sisters walked in silence for a long moment. Chloe finally whispered, everyone probably saw that video by now. Madison didn't answer. She knew it was true. The thought of their meltdown going viral made her stomach twist. They reached their gate early, but the energy around them was different now. The attendants smiled politely, but Madison could feel the faint recognition in their eyes. Someone must have already shown them the clip. When they finally sat down again, Madison rubbed her temples. I just wanted a simple flight, she muttered. Now I feel like the whole airport hates us. Chloe gave a weak smile. Maybe we overreacted a little. Madison looked at her sister for a moment, really looked and saw how shaken she was. Her anger began to cool. Maybe, she said quietly, but they didn't have to throw everything away like that. Chloe nodded still. Maybe we shouldn't have yelled. Madison leaned back, exhaling deeply. The adrenaline was gone, leaving only exhaustion. She watched a little boy laugh as he pointed at airplanes through the window. For the first time that day, she realized how ridiculous the whole thing had been. All that fury, all that drama over bottles of shampoo, but she couldn't admit that out loud. Not yet. As the boarding announcement echoed through the terminal, Madison gathered her things. Let's just get to Miami, she said softly. I need to forget this ever happened. Chloe stood beside her, adjusting her sunglasses. Yeah, she whispered, but something tells me the internet won't forget as easily as we want to. And as they stepped onto the jet bridge, sunlight flashing on their faces, neither sister knew that their morning meltdown was already making its rounds online, turning them from travelers into a viral cautionary tale of what happens when pride meets airport security. By the time the Harper sisters' flight took off, the morning sun had already begun its slow climb toward noon. The airplane hummed softly as it glided above the clouds, casting shadows over the bright blue sky. Madison sat by the window, her head resting against the cool glass, but there was no peace in her mind. The humiliation at the airport still replayed in her thoughts, looping like a nightmare she couldn't shut off. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Officer Grant's voice, saw the smirks from other travelers, and felt the sting of losing her expensive products in front of everyone. Across the aisle, Chloe sat stiffly, scrolling through her phone. She had kept her sunglasses on for most of the flight, as if they could protect her from the embarrassment that lingered. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, searching through her social media feeds for some distraction. But instead of comfort, she found disaster. "Oh no," she whispered, her voice trembling. Madison turned slowly. "What now?" Chloe didn't answer. She just turned her phone toward her sister. The screen showed a TikTok video titled, "Karen's sisters lose it at airport over shampoo bottles. #3 rule. #airport drama." Madison froze. "What is that?" "Someone recorded us," Chloe said quietly. Her voice was barely audible over the hum of the engines. Madison snatched the phone, pressing play. There they were, her and Chloe screaming at the TSA officers, gesturing wildly, and demanding respect. The video was shaky but clear enough to capture their faces and their words. The comments section was exploding. "Classic Karens, imagine making a scene over conditioner. This is why we can't have nice things." The post had over 1.2 million views and it had been uploaded only 3 hours ago. Madison's stomach dropped. Her fingers went numb. "This can't be happening," she muttered. "Delete it. We'll report it." Chloe gave a hollow laugh. "It's everywhere now. Look, Instagram, Twitter, even YouTube Shorts. Different angles too. People were recording from all sides." Madison's mind spun. The blood drained from her face as she realized what that meant. Her perfect image, the flawless social media life she'd curated for years, was collapsing. Her followers loved her for her elegant lifestyle posts, her beauty tips, her calm confidence, and now they'd see her screaming in public, red-faced and furious over shampoo. Chloe scrolled again, her voice cracking. "Look at this one. Someone edited a remix of us shouting with dramatic music. It already has 500,000 likes." Madison covered her face with her hands. "This is a nightmare." For several minutes they sat in silence, the plane roaring quietly around them. Madison's pulse pounded in her ears. Every notification sound from Chloe's phone made her flinch. She could already imagine the headlines: "Influencer sisters throw tantrum at airport." She had worked too hard for this. Every post, every video, every brand deal, they all depended on her image. One scandal could ruin everything. "I'm not letting this destroy us," Madison said suddenly, lowering her hands. "We'll control the story. We'll make a statement." Chloe blinked. "A statement? Saying what?" "That it was taken out of context." Madison snapped. "That we were mistreated. That security overreacted. We'll make a video explaining everything. People love a redemption arc." Chloe hesitated. "Madison, I don't think that's going to work. We were yelling. Everyone saw it." Madison's glare could have cut glass. "So what? We're not going to sit here and look like villains. Or tell them we were stressed, that TSA was rude. We'll make it emotional." Chloe didn't argue, but her expression said she didn't believe it. When the plane landed in Miami, the sisters walked quickly through the terminal, trying to keep their heads down. Madison wore her sunglasses now too, hoping to blend in, but a few people recognized them instantly. "Hey, are you the airport sisters?" a man called out, holding his phone up to record. Chloe gasped, tugging at Madison's sleeve. "Let's go." Madison didn't respond. Her face had gone pale. By the time they reached their hotel, the story had already made it to local news pages. Headlines flashed across Madison's phone. "Luxury influencers cause scene at LAX over airport rules. Karen sisters go viral after arguing with TSA." Madison threw her phone onto the bed, pacing the room. "They're making us look like monsters." Chloe sank onto the sofa, exhausted. "Maybe we should just apologize. A simple one, say we overreacted. People might forgive us." Madison spun around. "Apologize now? That's admitting we were wrong." "Madison, we were wrong," Chloe said quietly. The older sister's face twisted in frustration. "I didn't do anything that anyone else wouldn't do. They humiliated us. I was defending myself." Chloe sighed. "You were defending your shampoo." That silence that followed was sharp and heavy. Madison opened her mouth to reply but couldn't find the words. She looked at her reflection in the hotel mirror, her perfectly done hair, her flawless makeup, and yet she didn't recognize herself. Hours later, Madison sat at the desk with her phone propped up, ready to record a video. The ring light glowed softly on her face. Chloe sat nearby, arms folded. Madison took a deep breath and pressed record. "Hi everyone," she began, forcing a calm smile. "So, there's been a lot of misunderstanding about what happened at the airport. I just want to explain." But before she could continue, a new notification popped up on Chloe's phone. She glanced at it and her jaw dropped. "Madison, a brand just dropped us." "What?" Madison snapped. "Luna Beauty," Chloe said softly. "They released a statement saying they don't condone disrespectful behavior towards service workers." Madison's face fell. No, 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 no. She grabbed her phone and checked her emails. 2 more brands had quietly pulled out. Her income, her partnerships, everything was unraveling faster than she could control. Her voice shook. This can't be real. It's just a video. Chloe's tone was gentle now. It's not just a video anymore. It's who people think we are. Madison's hands trembled. She turned off the camera and slumped in her chair. For the first time that day, she didn't look angry, she looked lost. Chloe came closer and placed a hand on her shoulder. Maybe we just need to own it, she said softly. Be honest. Tell people we messed up. You can't fight the internet, Madison. It always wins. Madison stared at the dark screen of her phone, her reflection faint in the glass. The confident woman she'd built her entire image around suddenly looked fragile, almost unfamiliar. Outside, the Miami sun blazed through the hotel curtains, warm, bright, and indifferent. Madison whispered, I just wanted to look perfect. Chloe gave a sad smile. Maybe it's time to stop trying. For a long moment, neither said a word. The hum of the city outside filled the silence as the sisters sat together, realizing that the storm they'd started in the airport had followed them all the way across the country, and this time, there was no security officer to take it away. They had lost more than just their expensive products. They had lost control of their story, and perhaps, of who they thought they were. The next morning in Miami dawned bright and golden, the sky painted with soft streaks of pink and orange. Outside their hotel balcony, palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze, and the ocean sparkled like a mirror of light. It was the kind of day that invited peace, but inside the Harper sisters' suite, tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. Madison sat at the vanity, her makeup untouched for the first time in years. Her eyes were puffy from lack of sleep, and her phone lay on the table in front of her, buzzing every few seconds with new notifications, none of them good. News outlets were still sharing clips of the airport Karen sisters. Social media was ruthless with memes, and even morning talk shows had started mocking them. Across the room, Chloe was curled up on the sofa, staring blankly at her own phone. It's worse today, she murmured. There's another video from someone who was behind us in line. It shows everything from the start. Madison closed her eyes and inhaled shakily. Does it make us look any better? Chloe's silence was the answer. Madison leaned forward, pressing her palms against her temples. This is insane. People get angry all the time. Why are we being treated like villains? Because we were rude, Chloe said softly, and because we didn't stop. Her words stung, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. Madison wanted to argue, to defend herself, to say she had just been frustrated, but every excuse felt hollow now. There was a knock at the door. Chloe stood to answer it, revealing a hotel staff member holding a small envelope. Message for Miss Harper, he said politely before walking away. Madison tore it open. Inside was a printed letter from one of their remaining brand partners, a skincare company she'd promoted for 2 years. It was short and blunt, due to recent events and public behavior inconsistent with our brand's values. We regret to inform you that our partnership is hereby terminated, effective immediately. Madison's chest tightened. They dropped me, she whispered. All of them will. Chloe came closer, her face full of worry. Madison, maybe it's time to stop fighting it. Maybe we just need to be honest. Madison's eyes flashed. You mean apologize? Yes, Chloe said. Not a fake influencer apology. A real one. No excuses. No crying on camera. Just tell people the truth. Madison stood and paced the room, her mind torn between pride and panic. The thought of admitting she was wrong made her skin crawl. But then she thought about the video views, millions of people who now saw her as the face of entitlement. No brand would ever trust her again unless she did something drastic. Finally, she exhaled. Fine, she said. But if we're doing this, we do it right. They set up their phones side by side on the balcony table, facing the soft daylight. The ocean stretched endlessly behind them, a peaceful backdrop for an ugly truth. Chloe sat beside her sister, their matching designer robes now replaced with plain white t-shirts. There were no filters, no glam lighting, no background music. Just 2 sisters who looked human for the first time in a long time. Madison pressed record. She stared into the camera for a long moment before speaking. Hi everyone, she began quietly. I know a lot of you have seen the videos of us at the airport, and there's no way to sugarcoat it. We acted terribly. Chloe nodded beside her, her voice soft. We were rude, disrespectful, and out of line. The TSA officers were just doing their job, and instead of listening we argued and made a scene. That was wrong. Madison swallowed hard. I've been reading the comments, and as painful as they are, they're right. I let my pride get in the way of basic decency. I thought rules didn't apply to me, and that's a terrible attitude to have. I'm sorry to the officers, the travelers who had to witness that, and everyone we disappointed. Her voice cracked slightly at the end. It wasn't the dramatic performance she usually gave her followers, it was raw, trembling, real. Chloe added softly, we've both learned something from this. Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you give. We hope this can remind others to be kind, even when things don't go your way. Madison nodded, her eyes glistening. We'll do better. We have to. When the video ended, the sisters sat in silence, Madison exhaled deeply. Do you think it was enough? Chloe gave a faint smile. If it was honest, it's enough. They uploaded the video and waited for the next few hours. Neither of them moved much. Madison lay on the bed, scrolling through early reactions, expecting more hate. But as comments began to flood in, something strange happened. The tone shifted. This feels real. Okay, respect for owning up. Everyone messes up, glad. They learned. The likes started climbing, not as quickly as their viral meltdown, but enough to notice. Influencers who had once mocked them reposted their apology with messages like, "This is how you take accountability." Even a few small brands commented supportive emojis under the video. For the first time in days, Madison allowed herself to breathe. Later that afternoon, the sisters took a walk through the streets of Miami, blending into the crowd. The sun was bright, and the air carried the smell of sea salt and street food. People recognized them, of course, but now, instead of sneers or laughter, some offered nods or even smiles. A young woman approached shyly near a cafe. "Hey, I saw your video," she said. "I just wanted to say it was really brave. Most people would have just disappeared." Madison smiled faintly. "Thank you," she said, and for once, she meant it. As they continued walking, Chloe looked at her sister. "You know, maybe this isn't the end for us. Maybe it's a new start." Madison chuckled softly. A very humbling one. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold, the sisters sat on their balcony again, this time not as influencers planning their next brand shoot, but as two women reflecting on how far they'd fallen and how much they'd grown. "I never realized how much I cared about being seen as perfect," Madison said quietly. "It's exhausting." Chloe nodded. "Maybe people don't need perfect. Maybe they just need real." Madison smiled, the tension in her shoulders finally easing. "Then maybe it's time we start being real for once." The ocean waves rolled gently below, the sound calm and forgiving. For the first time in what felt like forever, Madison didn't feel the need to perform, to pose, or to defend herself. She just felt human, and somewhere deep down, beneath the noise of the internet and the glare of their mistakes, both sisters knew something had changed forever. They had gone viral for all the wrong reasons, but maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild for all the right ones. 3 weeks had passed since the Harper sisters' heartfelt apology video changed the course of their lives. The chaos of the internet had slowly quieted down. The headlines had faded. The memes were fewer. And for the first time in years, Madison and Chloe were no longer trending, for the better or worse. But their lives were different now. Gone were the endless brand shoots, the glittering events, and the non-stop cycle of posing for perfection. The sisters had traded their high heels for sneakers, their designer handbags for tote bags, and their self-importance for something far more meaningful: humility. They had spent those 3 weeks volunteering at a local shelter in Miami, helping families affected by travel mishaps and lost belongings, the kind of people they used to ignore in airports. Madison found herself listening to real stories instead of rehearsing lines for sponsorships. She even started to write down the lessons she was learning, unsure if it would one day become a blog, a book, or maybe just a personal reminder to never go back to who she once was. Chloe, meanwhile, we've discovered her passion for photography this time, capturing candid moments of ordinary people instead of staged luxury shots. She started a small social media page called Unfiltered Humanity, where she posted raw, authentic glimpses of life in Miami. To her surprise, people loved it. "Can you believe it?" Chloe said one morning as they sat in a quiet cafe overlooking the ocean. 10,000 followers in a weekend. No one's calling me fake or spoiled." Madison smiled over her coffee cup. "That's because you finally showed them who you really are." Chloe laughed softly. "Maybe it's time you do the same." Madison glanced out at the horizon, where a plane soared high above the clouds. She hadn't stepped on one since that day at the airport. The thought still made her chest tighten. But perhaps that was the final step toward true redemption, to face the place where it all began. 2 days later, Madison booked 2 tickets to Los Angeles. Not for a brand deal, not for a photo shoot, just to visit their parents who had been worried sick throughout the ordeal. When she told Chloe, her sister's face lit up in surprise. "You're serious?" Madison nodded. "It's time we go home." At Miami International Airport, everything felt eerily familiar. The long lines, the buzz of travelers, the rolling suitcases. But this time, Madison didn't walk through the terminal with entitlement or irritation. She carried humility, and with it, a quiet sense of peace. At the security checkpoint, a TSA officer looked up and froze for a moment. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Madison braced herself, expecting judgment or mockery, but instead, he smiled slightly. "You're the Harper sisters, right?" he asked. "I saw your apology video. Respect for that. Most people wouldn't have done it." Madison blinked, taken aback. "Thank you," she said softly, "and thank you for what you do. I know it's not easy dealing with people like us that day." The officer chuckled. "It's all good. We all have bad days. What matters is you learned from it." As Madison handed over her ID, she realized that the simple exchange meant more than any brand endorsement she'd ever had. For the first time in months, she felt forgiven, not by the internet, but by herself. Once through security, Chloe nudged her with a grin. See progress. They boarded their flight quietly, taking their seats by the window. As the plane began to taxi, Chloe turned to her sister. You know, this could be our full circle moment. Madison raised an eyebrow. How so? We started our downfall on a plane, Chloe said, and maybe this flight can be the start of our rise in a different way. Madison smiled faintly. I like that. When the plane lifted off, Miami shrinking below them, Madison closed her eyes and exhaled. The sound of engines roared like redemption in her ears. She thought about everything: the humiliation, the loss, the apology, the lessons, and somehow, it all made sense now. 2 hours into the flight, a commotion stirred near the front of the cabin. A passenger, a nervous young woman, was visibly upset, arguing with a flight attendant over a misplaced seat assignment. Her voice trembled with frustration. For a moment, Madison froze. The scene was painfully familiar, but this time, instead of watching from the sidelines or worse, being the problem, she stood up and walked toward the woman. Hey, Madison said gently, offering a calm smile. It's okay. Sometimes these things happen. I know it's stressful, but they'll help you get it sorted out. The woman looked at her, recognition dawning. Wait, you're that influencer from Madison nodded before she could finish. Yeah, that was me, and I handled it the wrong way. Trust me, it's not worth the stress. You'll get where you're going. Something in her tone must have reached the woman because she took a deep breath and nodded. The flight attendant smiled gratefully at Madison, and the situation diffused quietly. As Madison returned to her seat, Chloe whispered, "That was poetic." Madison chuckled softly. Maybe it was, or maybe it was just doing the right thing for once. Hours later, when their plane landed in Los Angeles, the sisters stepped off into the bright California sunshine. The air felt different, lighter, freer, almost as if the universe itself was offering them a clean slate. That their parents were waiting outside baggage claim, tears of joy in their eyes as they embraced their daughters. "We're proud of you," their mother said softly. "Not because you were famous, but because you finally found yourselves." Madison's heart swelled. "We had to fall pretty far to do it," she admitted. Her father smiled. "Sometimes, that's the only way to rise higher." That night, as the family sat together for dinner, laughter filled the air again, genuine, unfiltered laughter. Madison felt peace she hadn't known in years. She didn't need to chase validation anymore. The world could keep its spotlight. She had found something far brighter: authenticity. Later, as she scrolled through her phone one last time before bed, she opened her notes app and began typing. Redemption isn't about proving the world wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you've changed, that you're capable of more than ego, more than anger, more than who you used to be. She smiled to herself, saved the note, and turned off the light. For Madison and Chloe Harper, the storm had finally passed. The lesson was learned, the apologies made, and the world had moved on. But the peace they found within that was theirs to keep. And as another plane soared overhead in the night sky, Madison whispered to herself with a smile, "This time we're flying for the right reasons."